All right, Peter, um, you're kind of there. I mean, you got sort of most of the things blocked into place. Your two main issues really are um, the curves, like you have some really hard edges or some really sharp turns, so your pen tool work is not great. Like you see how this edge doesn't feel really fluid. It's kind of jaggedy. Like same thing over here, same thing over here. Right? You want this stuff to be a lot smoother. So if we were just going to clean this one up, you know, if it doesn't, that still doesn't look like right. Um, Maybe something like this, right? That starts to feel better. The trick with the pen tool is to use the least amount of points possible um, to sort of build your contour. Um, when you add more points, that's when you really get sort of that wonkiness around the edges. So the trick is just to use as few as possible to build, again, the curves that you need. And if you can do that, then you can get some really, really nice effects, right? Like that sort of cleaned up really nicely. That cleaned up really nicely. This edge is a little bit wonky, so maybe did something like that. Yeah, right. That starts to feel a little bit better. So that's really the first big issue. And the second big issue is how you're treating your shadows, right? Like on the edges. This is like really, really bad. Super, super wonky how you're not coming flush to the edge. And not just with the shadows, but with all of this stuff. You see this weird gap here. Um, and that little stuff is really a big deal when it comes to this doing any work in Illustrator, right? Like this right here is not flush. And that's, I mean, yeah, you just couldn't get away with that in any sort of sense. And then you have this kind of stuff over here where you kind of have these random, you didn't do a really good job of cleaning up the shape, so it doesn't even fit. Um, so in order to avoid stuff like this, like where you have shadows that don't fit inside of shapes, you have two ways to do it. You can use the Pathfinder tool, or you can use the clipping path or clipping mask. So I'll show you both. Pathfinder is really easy. You copy your object, paste it in front twice, sort of move the top object in a place so that you can cut out the bottom object. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the top object and punch a hole in this bottom object. So we just do this, come over to the Pathfinder tool and hit minus front, and there you go. Now you have this nice implied shadow, and the edges are great because it uses the shape to create the edges, so you don't have to worry about trying to go in there and manually draw the shape. The other alternative is to use the clipping mask, and the way that one works is so I could use the pen tool, create a funky shape here, fill it, take the original bottom shape, copy it, paste it in front, hop it up to the top, select both it and the shadow, and hit Command 7. Command 7 makes a clipping path, or clipping mask rather, or you can go to Objects, clipping mask right here, and now what you've done is you've created a clipping path. You've used the circle shape, and you've clipped this image or this shape to it, the inside. Now you can manipulate this however you want. And that's how you avoid all this sort of nasty jankiness that you have here.